Hey everyone, this is Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 86 of Album of the Day, in which today's artist is an indie folk singer-songwriter from Portland, Oregon, who has become definitely one of the most acclaimed and beloved musicians to come out of the Portland music scene. I'm here to talk about an artist named M. Ward, who's been putting out albums since the late 90s and has been getting a lot of acclaim with releases like Transfiguration of Vincent and Transistor Radio. And now I'm here to review his another album of his that's pretty highly acclaimed and led to a performance on David Letterman and all that stuff. That came out back in 2006 on Merge Records in the US and on 4AD in the UK. The album is called Post-War, and let me say, I really like this cover art. It's very, very cool. The album basically, the title sort of shows this is a record kind of basically grappling with the aftermath of some war that's been, going on or stuff like that. I don't know if it has to do with the aftermath of the Vietnam War or something like that, but it's certainly a very but it's certainly definitely a record that's definitely kind of an aftermath kind of album. So yeah, this is my CD copy, and I got it at a record store in Philadelphia called Philadelphia Record Exchange. So this is a used copy that I got for only $4.98. And this insert here, it doesn't have lyrics, unfortunately, but it does have the liner notes in there. This album was produced by Ward himself, except for a track which was co-produced by Jim James of My Morning Jacket. And it turns out some of the artwork in here is actually a Wrigley Field baseball game ticket from the 40s. That's pretty cool. And there's the disc there. And some artwork that's underneath. It turns out it's artwork of the baseball game. So yeah, that's my CD copy of the album Post-War by M. Ward. So this is an album that I really do feel like, this is an album that is near perfect in terms of its intelligent songwriting. It's very nice and wonderfully produced instrumentation, and it's good album flow too. The songs feel like this kind of one big piece of art. So the opening track on here is the song Poison Cup, which has lyrics, I'm not really sure what the song's about, but I will admit it does open the album quite nicely with its, inviting mix of acoustic guitar, drums, and strings. There's strings on here, and there's also a timpani on here too. So there's some really nice instrumentation on this album from a ton of very notable musicians from this kind of indie-based music scene. Like here on this record we have Mike Mogus of Bright Eyes, Jim James of My Morning Jacket, Rachel Blumberg, formerly of the Decemberists. Rest on here. Nico Case. Just a bunch of, very notable, people are playing on this album, and, it was, let me see what studios this album was recorded at. Okay, so the album was, solely was, recorded at, by Mike Kuykendall, a band member of M. Ward's, at Blue Rooms in Portland, Oregon. And it was also recorded a little bit at a Type Foundry in Portland by Adam Selzer, and it was recorded at Wave Lab in Tuesday. And also a little bit of engineering happened at Wave Lab in Tucson by Mike Mogus and Nick Luca. A studio where bands like Calexico and Nico Case have recorded several albums. And it was mixed at Presto in Lincoln, Nebraska by Mike Mogus. And the mastering was done by Roger Seibel at SAE in Phoenix, who had also mastered records by artists like Sleater Kinney and Def Cab for Cutie and people like that. So yeah, just kind of talk about the credits. Anyway, back to the album. So following the song Poison Cup is the song To Go Home, which is the lead single off the album, and it's actually a cover of a Daniel Johnston song. And let me say, for a cover song, he does it really, really well on here. And it has some really lovely backing vocals on it from Nico Case on there too. There's kind of a fun, energetic, kind of one of the poppier moments on the album. It's still like a great cover song. So it kind of makes sense they put it out as a single because it has kind of this upbeat feel that a majority of singles out there would. And then there's the song Right in the Head, which kind of deals with he talks like and more definitely has a sense of storytelling going on the way an artist like Bob Dylan would. So that's like definitely one of his main influences would have to be Bob Dylan. He talks about there's always that person who's fought in a war that you're hoping is right in the head, even if he has to wrong someone to to save lives or something like that. So he's hoping. So the narrator's hoping that this soldier didn't forget where he came from because of me, because he's knowing that the possibility could be he could have been wounded in the war, and one of the highlights of this album, in my opinion, would have to be in this song, that slide guitar riff that goes dan 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 dan. Like that riff definitely shows some of his guitar skills too, which makes it one of the most enjoyable moments on the album. Would have to be that riff that goes on in this track. And then the song ends with basically a minute of sound effects of bees buzzing and birds making noise, as well as a sample of what sounds kind of like some old violin music. But yet it kind of flows in really nicely into the title track on here, which deals with how he's obviously in a state of mind where he's don't they love you in mysterious ways, and just put $1 in the machine and you'll remember when this kind of when fighting for your life was happening. So he's really got some hard proof in there, in that song if you just listen to the lyrics, even though it's not a very wordy song, and it's one of the quieter moments on the album, and it's the longest song on the album because a majority of the songs on here are just a couple of minutes and it's over, but this one's 5 minutes compared to some of the other this is a pretty short album for sure, but this is one that's a longer moment on here. The song Requiem is a song, definitely one of the best songs in this album. The lyrics on it, I think, are what make it one of the highlights on here. It's lyrics about this soldier who obviously was a very brave and very, you know, smart, smart, and, he was just an all around great guy. But so he's talking about how he was a great he was a great friend and a great soldier, but now he was just killed in the war, so he's not around anymore. Uh, War, you know, and of course the song has this like kind of energetic, indie rock feel going on with, just some very, with 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 its like booming drums, and and then there's like and then like some fuzzy electric guitars in there, guitars, and like he's describing, like his heart was stronger than a heavy metal bullet. Um, the song Chinese Translation is another song that has a really good sense of storytelling. In this one, he talks about, he's he's in China, and he like sails a sea, climbs a tall mountain, and meets an old man beneath a willow tree who says, "If you got some questions, go and lay them at my feet. But my time here is brief, so you have to pick just three." So it's like a song about, basically, it's basically a song about that moment in your life where you come across this, you always come across this person in your life that's dealing with a very, hard time, and obviously feels, and obviously that person is someone who feels like he won't be able to live for very long. So there's always that moment where, he always kind of convinces you to ask him questions about his life before, he pretty much, because he's, because he's going through a phase that, like, doesn't feel so much like he's gonna live, as he is more like, his days feel a little numbered. Uh, Lyrically, it's definitely a pretty, like, almost maybe a little melancholy of a song, but not too much. And musically, it just sounds beautiful, showing off some of M. Ward's really good guitar arpeggios, as well as some really beautiful, almost like very velvety and ethereal harmonies from Jim James of My Morning Jacket, and Mike Kuykendall did also sing on here, and their harmonies just sound really nice, especially that little part at the end. And just listening to that really sweet guitar melody going on. The song "Eyes on the Prize" is one of the quieter tunes on here. Tunes, and this is one record where there are some songs in here where I don't really need to tell you what some of them are about, because I kind of want the song to kind of speak for itself, and I like to just let other people listen to it and see what it means for themselves. All right, and not only does it talk a little bit about war, but there's also there's kind of a almost kind of circus, sort of carnival theme going on with some of this record, and that starts out with the short foot stomper "Magic Trick," which is co-produced with Jim James and My Morning Jacket. And let me see, M. Ward and Jim James's voices, they just belt it out on here, and it's just kind of a fun song. And and the reason why I mention it's there's kind of a big top there's kind of a big top circus theme going on here, is because the lyrics on this song talk about this performer who you think you'll want to know her, but yet she's pretty much disappeared. It's kind of that moment that goes on when you're watching circus performers. You you never really get to say hello or goodbye because they have this ambition about them that makes them actually quite interesting. Um, and then there's the really, really just awesome instrumental, Neptune's Net, which this is definitely one instrumental that has no lyrics, but I think it kind of, makes sense for it to be that way. It's short and all, and doesn't have any lyrics, but I think it's really just great the way it is. Um, uh, Great the way it is with some really nice guitar playing and like this really spooky keyboard, as well as all this percussion that comes in, like orchestra bells and triangle and stuff like that. It's the kind of instrumental where I could listen to it and picture like all these different like uh, interesting like circus performers. So this song's like a little mini movie for your mind. I like to think of it that way. The song Rollercoaster uses a bunch of really clever wordplay to describe, this person that, like obviously, this person has someone that he uh, but yet, at the same time, he feels some sort of like anxiety about being around them, because like so I guess the circus thing kind of is kind of a theme going on with this track too, because like because because I like to imagine he's watching a circus performer, and it's just the most, and it's obviously someone that he knows, and he likes that person so much that he gets a little anxiety around her because she's got these things that make her like a roller coaster. And recording wise, it sounds pretty. It's one of the more sparse lo-fi recordings going on in the album. Sounds as if it was maybe recorded maybe in the 40s or 50s or something like that. It sounds that old. The song Today's Undertaking, once again feels like a little mini movie for your head because of the very cinematic strings and percussion that occurs like in the middle of the song that sound really nice. And then the closer on here is called Afterword /Rag. Afterword is basically just a short minute and a half little tune. With some very mysterious keyboards, and some little female vocals in there, as well as guitars and drums. And then it ends with just this really beautiful, lo-fi recording called Rag. Afterword, isn't really the strongest on here. But the Rag instrumental that follows, I think, is really beautiful and really does show off, once again, some of his skills with the guitar. Playing this really nice melody that takes a few listens, but once you really pay attention to it and realize that, it's like just a really, it closes off the album on such a positive note. And once again, it has that same kind of sparse lo-fi recording technique that the song Rollercoaster had. It's pretty simple, but yet works so well in contrast to the album. So yeah, I think this album really shows off. Maybe I haven't really heard very much of M. Ward's music. I've heard a little bit of his other stuff, but I will admit that out of all the stuff I've heard from him, this is some of his best and some of his most ambitious and most lyrically engaging stuff to date. So yeah, I would definitely have to top this as one of the best releases of 2006, alongside Fox Confessor Brings the Flood by Nico Case. And it's another album from 2006 that I think is great. But yeah, don't really have much of other ones to mention there, but still, like, this is a great album, and I do highly recommend it. And I do like how it's kind of a different theme with both, halves of the album. The first half deals with kind of the aftermath of a war, and then the second half of the record deals with kind of, these circus performers that obviously evoke a lot of feelings and make it like a little mini film for your head. But yeah, I really like how it's kind of, it's kind of unique that way. So that's my review on Post War by M. Ward. I'll see you for episode 87.